Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Friday devotional time together. My name's Mike, and I'll be leading us this morning. Okay, today we are considering Psalm 10, and I'll just find it. There it is. Okay, I hope you can see that, Psalm 10. And I've chosen the New Living Version for this because it kind of had a bit of bite to it, shall we say. And it says this: "O Lord, why do you stand so far away? Why do you hide when I am in trouble? The wicked arrogantly hunt down the poor. Let them be caught in the evil they plan for others. For they brag about their evil desires. They praise the greedy and curse the Lord. The wicked are too proud to seek God. They seem to think that God is dead, yet they succeed in everything they do. They do not see your punishment waiting for them. They sneer at all their enemies. They think nothing bad will ever happen to us. We will be free of trouble forever. Their mouths are full of cursing, lies, and threats. Trouble and evil are on the tips of their tongues. They lurk in ambush in the villages, waiting to murder innocent people. They are always searching for helpless victims, like lions crouching and hiding. They wait to pounce on the helpless. Like hunters, they capture the helpless and drag them away in nets. Their helpless victims are crushed. They fall beneath the strength of the wicked." And it goes on to say, "The wicked think God isn't watching us. He has closed his eyes and won't even see what we do. Arise, O Lord, punish the wicked, O God. Do not ignore the helpless. Why do the wicked get away with despising God? They think God will never call us to account. But you see the trouble and grief they cause. You take note of it and punish them. The helpless put their trust in you. You defend the orphans. Break the arms of these wicked, evil people. Go after them until the last one is destroyed. The Lord is king forever and ever. Godless nations will vanish from the land." Okay, so this is a psalm in two halves. The first half really outlining the problem, and the second half coming out with a possible solution. Right, the first thing to note here is that Psalm 10 lacks a title. And the reason for that is that in historical texts, and I checked this out with Ian Brown, so it must be right, it is actually linked with Psalm 9. So it is part 2 of Psalm 9. You could call it Psalm 9b, if you like. In the Hebrew, Psalm 9 and Psalm 10 were considered as one entity, and therefore what I'm going to be talking about today is actually part 2 of yesterday's talk given by Lily. Rather like Psalm 9, the language here is stark and real. We know exactly how David is feeling. This is an in-your-face psalm, one that is written from the heart, and David pulls no punches here. And the scenes described here could easily be played out today. And I'm sure you can all relate to that. So nothing much really has changed since the time of David to the time we find ourselves in today. So the first 11 verses of the psalm detail the issues with graphic illustrations. And again, oh so familiar problems in today's world. It is essentially saying, I am in trouble, I am in difficulties, there are things, awful things going on around us. Why aren't you there? Why aren't you dealing with this, God? Why are you not helping me? Why are you not sorting any of this out? The question, therefore, is, does this actually sound familiar to you? And you can nod your heads if you agree. Yeah, thank you very much. We also have the perennial issue of injustice, people getting rich at the expense of the poor. As you know, some of you know, I'm involved with community debt advice, and we see many poor people who have been exploited by unscrupulous lenders who charge them extortionate interest rates. And often these executives are pictured in big houses, gated houses with expensive cars, etc. So this psalm resonates in today's world. What happened back then also happens now. However, from verse 12 onwards, we have a change of tack. This records David's response, and we should take note. Here is David's prayer to God about the situation, and a plea that matters should indeed be changed. A plea that God would arise and meter out justice and expose and punish those who prey on the weak and helpless. So David, rather than blaming God, moves to entreat God to do something about it. He recognizes God's sovereignty over the situation. The potential problem here, though, is the timing, and sometimes this can prove a test to our faith and our trust in God. Often these prayers are not answered immediately or, in our view, in a timely fashion. In 1961, the communist-controlled authorities in East Germany erected a wall in Berlin to segregate and essentially imprison their citizens. This is known as the Berlin Wall. I'm sure you all heard of it. Many prayed that the wall would be removed, and those prayers were indeed answered, but not until later in 1989, some 8 years later. A verse beloved by all is found in Jeremiah 29, verse 11. You know the one, talks about a future and a hope. The future being referred to here was that of the Israelite nation, by then in exile, and a promise of better days to come. However, this was not delivered on the following day. It took years to fulfill. But the verse does deliver that vital ingredient in hard times, and that is hope. And in the end, Psalm 10 is about hope in the face of adversity, that at some point God will expose and punish the wrongdoers. Now I'm going to show you a picture. Right, here is a picture of a penguin. This is no ordinary penguin. This is an emperor penguin, the largest of the penguin family. They live in Antarctica, where they raise their young in the most brutal conditions possible, in the middle of the Antarctic winter. David Attenborough featured the emperor penguins in his Dynasties series, which is available on iPlayer. He said this: "They, the penguins, will have to survive the coming winter, the coldest and cruelest on Earth. New emperor penguin couples perform a ritual that will cement their commitment to each other. They create a powerful bond, and this bond needs to be one of the strongest in nature, because the survival of every family here and the survival of this emperor penguin dynasty depends on it." And here we see a picture of the happy couple. The emperors are possibly my most favorite bird because of their ability to survive against all the odds. They also work with each other and huddle together to keep themselves warm. Emperor penguins form this powerful bond to enable them not only to survive the harsh winter, but also to raise a chick. That is the hope for them, seeing that this chick reaches adulthood against all the odds. David's bond with God was also powerful. It helped him to see beyond the immediate and to the future. He knew that God's justice would prevail in the end, and that was the hope he expressed here in the second half of Psalm 10. And here I think is the crux of Psalm 10. It is about being honest and open with God. acknowledging the injustices and the problems that perplex us. But it is also a knowing that God will deal with it, a hope indeed for the future. A hope for the future, yes, but not necessarily tomorrow. Meanwhile, the lesson we can take from the Emperor Penguin is the importance of a powerful bond, in our case with God and with those close to us, which will help us to endure the harshest of winters in our lives, where injustices abound around us, as we work towards the promise and hope of better things, that better things will indeed come. We sometimes, as it were, need to huddle together and work together to get through the times that David described in Psalm 10. May the 17th and June the 21st are key dates in the current COVID battle. For many, this COVID and lockdown battle has indeed been a harsh winter. But the sun is now rising again, just as it eventually does in the Antarctic for the penguins. The ordeal will indeed pass. So to sum up, here is the result of the Emperor Penguin's ordeal, a baby chick there with the two adults. So, be open and honest with God. David was in Psalm 10, verse 1 to 11. God is big enough to take it, okay? Look beyond the present issues, which may not be resolved immediately. Psalm 10, verse 12 onwards does that. David looks ahead. He has his faith and trust in God. He has that bond with God. Just like the Emperor Penguins, we need a powerful relational bond with God to survive. In our case, with God and with other people. Please do not lose hope. It is our greatest weapon to get us through the harshest of winters. And I'm going to share two other things here. First of all, this quote by Corrie ten Boom: never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. Okay. And finally, this, which Lily shared with us yesterday: keep watering with prayer. And with that, I will pass you over for prayer. So, drips of prayer, in the end, form a vast lake, as in Lake Trausfynydd.